dude?
It's Friday! 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 Day.
The 5 o'clock whistle isn't wrong, even though it's not 5 o'clock for another 8 hours or so here on the network. Welcome to the morning show. It's Friday. We got stuff. This could be kind of a precursor for the future. So we've got opening kickoff. We've got our stuff to talk about. We've got all of that. Then we'll see if our friends from Beyond Goals Mentoring can join us at the bottom of the hour. 10 o'clock could be an absolute free-for-all. No Major League Soccer, at least in this footprint morning, Derek. So talk about those two games. Also at 10 o'clock, joining in is Bart Keeler from the Soccer for USPOD, because the U.S. men's national team has a fairly big moment involving their new man in charge, Mauricio Pochettino. And so we will discuss that with Bart. We have invited the cast of thousands to come in hour number 2. So if anybody comes in, they want to talk about the USMNT with Bart, they can. They want to talk about what happened yesterday that we're going to talk about in opening kickoff, they can. Morning, Bam. Happy Saturday. We got all of that to talk about, all of the things. So we've got Nations League. We've got what happened last night in CONMEBOL. It's all over the place. So hour number 2 could be an absolute street fight. It's a Friday. Let it be so. All right. Last night, full disclosure, two fronts. You see the shirt that I'm wearing this morning. The folks down at Jeff Davis and Hazelhurst and that swath that Helene went through a couple of weeks ago, they're still digging out. And we're trying to get some stuff done on the high school football side over at Georgia Public. So figured today with our friends at Jeff Davis, with their first home game in high school football back after Helene came through, only 30% of the county still has power. And by no means are they the only ones that are hurting right now. It's that whole entire swath. If you were to go, say, Lanier County, Appling, Bacon, Jeff Davis, Toombs, Augusta, and into the Carolinas, they are still, digging out. They're still trying to make sure everybody's okay. They're still trying to make sure that folks can still have hot meals when they have the chance to. But today in Hazelhurst, they are having their first high school football home game. It was supposed to be homecoming today, but instead it's going to be a celebration for first responders, public servants, and all of that. So they're having their first home game today, and hopefully we can tell that story coming down the line. I figured it'd be a little appropriate to bust out our Jeff Davis gear today. And just like I said, just for everybody in North Carolina, everybody in Florida specifically, after what happened with Milton, and you know that Milton's name is going to get retired. So with Helene and with Milton, just keep your warmest thoughts and vibes and love for everybody in Florida, in that swath that Helene took out here in the state of Georgia, in the Southeast, and then the Carolinas as well. So just keep your thoughts in the most warm fashion possible in that direction for everybody who has been affected. And it's not just those that have been affected just in the immediate path. It's family, it's friends. I had friends who were in Tampa St. Pete, and they didn't leave because they were far enough inland. They were a good amount inland, and they were trying to live stream to make sure that everybody knew that they were okay, those kinds of things. But just keep all your love and best thoughts to everybody who's been affected by Helene and Milton over the last couple of weeks. And so we will continue to update you on that as we go, whether it's on the high school level, whether it's on the college level, or just folks that know folks. So let us know and spread the word about how folks are doing as we go. All right. Opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. That's your QR code for those of you who are watching and listening. Listening, I'm probably going to have to sit there and go, okay, well, it might be a little different in trying to figure out where you can actually click on a QR code if you're just listening. So it might be a little difficult. But that's your QR code for our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. You hit that QR code, you start your day, you kick off. See what I did there? You kick off your day with our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Don't forget, when you check out, use the code Soccer down here 15 to get 15% off your purchase. They in turn take 10%, reinvest it into youth games, youth initiatives from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. All right, show of hands. Yesterday, how many of you, morning forecast, how many of you were hanging out and kind of watching and listening? Morning, Harry, you're in early, to what was going on in Nations League. We'll go over those. We'll go over those results and let you know what happened. Some of the greatest hits yesterday, but one of the greatest hits has to do with what happened involving the match at Wembley and Greece. And let me see if I can get this done on a game day here with how Jason does it. England. I don't know if I was close or not, but Greece is playing England at Wembley. With the shocking passing of George Baldock, Greece asked if they could push the match back, and they were told that they could not because of the state of the calendar. So they had to play the match at Wembley with Greece going up as a heavy underdog against England. So Greece gets the early lead. They get a 1-0 lead. They almost had a 2-0 lead, but VAR took it and looked at it, and it was an offside, even though I think it was an OG. I think it was still offside, so it was still 1-0. You're talking less than 10 minutes to go. Then Jude Bellingham scores to make it 1-1. And you're thinking, man, everybody that's attached to this one that's rooting against England may not get the result that they're looking for. And you could tell that momentum had shifted and Greece was kind of hanging on. And so Bellingham scores, makes it 1-1. And then you get this moment in time, courtesy of our friends at 2NA and Nations League. And so you end up with this moment late in the match with Greece and England.
Pelkas, ganando Pelkas. Filtra ese balón, sigue Pelkas, sigue en el área, busquen los griegos, quieren ganar, allá va Pavlidis, media vuelta, Pavlidis, gol, 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 gol. Grecia, gol de Pavlidis, otra vez Pavlidis, lleva 3, ya le anularon 1, y ahora en esta media vuelta, sobre el último suspiro, sobre el último segundo, Grecia en Wembley, Grecia lo va a ganar, ahí está Pavlidis con esta media vuelta, aprovecha el rebote, la manda a guardar, imposible para Pickford, imposible para ningún inglés, y Grecia celebra. Grecia va a ganar en Wembley, Inglaterra, 2-1.
So 2-1 at that point, thanks to our friends at 2NA and the Nations League for helping us out with that. And it was the eventual game winner. And so everyone is sitting there thinking, okay, so Nations League Group B2. England's got this wrapped, they should be able to take care of things. And now this is where, do I have one? No, sadly I don't. So if everyone here in the class could pick up the equivalent of a number 2 Ticonderoga pencil, pick it up, put it in the air and wave it and go, not so fast, my friend. The only thing I had is a Sharpie pen. The downside to the Sharpie pen, though, is that if you take the top off and you try to put it to the back, 9 times out of 10, it falls off. But anyway, take out your number 2 Ticonderoga pencils and go, not so fast, my friend. Greece wins 2-1 yesterday. And so you're thinking, okay, clear path for England and the 3 Lions to get to the 26 World Cup. And now you're going, okay, really? With what happened yesterday, there were folks that were trying to put grades on. They were trying to put grades on this one. And I know that folks are mad. Greece is ranked 48th in the world rankings. So you end up with you end up with folks that were so mad that they were giving out ones. That they were giving out ones yesterday. At just how incredibly I feel like Martin the Martian. You make me so angry. You saw a lot of that yesterday in England. And so a 2-1 score line where, according to our friends at The Athletic from Jack Pitt-Brook, Carsley fielded an experimental system. No recognized striker, too much creative talent. England looked unbalanced, confused, and painfully vulnerable whenever they lost the ball. And then, after the match, Lee Carsley, who is the substitute teacher at the moment, and he's interested in the gig of being the full-time manager for the national team. I somehow don't quite think that this is going to help him in that regard. But Pitt-Brook says after the match, asked whether England's defeat might damage his chances of getting appointed permanently, Carsley gave an answer which surprised the room. Quote, I was quite surprised after the last camp in terms of the job's mine and it's mine to lose and all the rest of it, Carsley said. My remit has been clear. I'm doing 3 camps. There's 3 games left. And then hopefully I'll be going back to the under 21s. Carsley was asked to clarify his comments more than once, and he took a half a step back, reiterating that, quote, he would not rule myself out or in or out of the process, and insisting that being England manager was one of the best jobs in the world. But it was neither a firm statement that he wanted the job nor that he wanted to fully wash his hands of it. Pitt-Brook continues. Maybe Carsley was trying to push back against the assumption that the job was automatically his. Maybe he was trying to say that he was relaxed about the outcome, whether he gets the top job or goes back to leading England's under 21s instead. Maybe he's trying to take the pressure off the FA, but the net result was to leave people with more questions than answers, much like the game we had all just watched. Big question was how Carsley would integrate Foden, Bellingham, and Palmer into the team that won both games last month without them. This was the conundrum that predecessor Gareth Southgate could never solve, as England failed to get anywhere near the best out of those 3 at the European Championships this summer. The hope was that Carsley, with this extra level of tactical nous, US, would be able to fit the pieces together. The solution with Harry Kane out injured was for Bellingham to start up front, Foden and Palmer in the midfield, Gordon and Saka on the wings, Declan Rice getting to do all the legwork in the midfield. Here, finally, was an unshackled, unleashed England. Southgate's handbrake had been ripped from the car and tossed out of the window, and it was a mess. England created only one real chance before Bellingham's late equalizer, Palmer skying a shot from a Bellingham pullback. Beyond that, it was plenty of possession around the edge of Greece's penalty area that went nowhere, quite a few crosses to no one in particular, and a strong sense that this was no solution at all to England's problems. If I remember correctly, the numbers were 2-1 in possession, England over Greece. But what is it we say about possession? Possession is either in the football, or in college football. It's what you do with possession. If you've got 1/3 of the clock, if you've got only 20 minutes of possession in a college football game, yet you've scored a lot of points, does time of possession, does TOP really matter? Answer, no. If you've scored more points than the other guy and you've only got 20 minutes of possession, the other guy's got 40 minutes, and they ain't scoring, and in this case, it was literally, 60 minutes to 30 minutes of possession time? 2-1, if my math is right. So England did not do well. Greece let them have it. England's got possession of the ball 67% of the time. You score 1 goal. Greece scored 2, only had it 30 minutes. Once again, TOP. not the most effective judge of success and success rate when it comes to a match. Difficult to think of a worse England defensive performance in recent memory. What truly stands out from this game is England's weakness at the back. England were never more vulnerable than when they had the ball. Every time they lost it, Greece broke straight through them. On another day, they would have conceded 5 or 6. So that was the that was the modest reaction that you got yesterday from England pundit, England writer, England fan. I'm imagining that it was angrier the further we got from the first example to the last. There was no bell curve. It was just a straight sine wave. It was just a straight climb to the 19th floor. Good news is that England have another game on Sunday, heading to Helsinki. This game, meaning yesterday's, could be just a bad one-off, a brave gamble that did not work. If Kane comes through training on Friday, returns to the team, England will have their keystone back to face Finland. If England can get back to the structure they showed in September, there's no reason they cannot finish this Nations League campaign strongly. But we'll need to know what Carsley's England at their best are meant to look like. Is this a team built on paper or a team built for tournaments? Does Carsley think the problem with England at Euro 2024 was that they were too in awe of their creative stars or not in awe enough? Does he know a route to winning a trophy that can bypass all of the methodical, functional aspects of the early Southgate era? These are pressing questions even more than whether he actually wants this job or not. So there's that. So you got all that stuff that's there. Lee Carsley sparks confusion. Hopefully I'll be going back to the U21s. So you lose to Greece, and then you mention, my remit has been clear. I always thought that he wanted the gig. I always thought that he's like, I'm looking forward to proving that, and this is paraphrasing, that I'm looking forward to possibly being the guy that could be the new full-time manager of the England and national team. But then after the match, it's like, my remit has been clear. I have 3 matches left. It's mine or it's not mine. I got 3 matches left, and then hopefully I'm going back to the U21s. Now, you can take that a couple different ways. Now, is it one of those where you sit there and you're like, is it one of those where you're like, thanks for the offer, but nah? Or I'm happy being where I am. I'm happy doing what I'm doing. Just saying. Just asking. It's like, do I want the U21 gig? Do I want to go back to where I was? Does that say anything about the full-time England gig? No, it's like I'm cool being the U21 coach. But yeah, I thought that Carsley was interested in being the full-time England manager. Did he have a revelation or a realization after the loss to Greece yesterday? Nah, maybe I'm good. I'll go back to being the U21 head coach. I don't know. Like I said, it was intriguing to say the very least. I feel like I need to I feel like I need to go like this. Intriguing, and take my pinky and go to the edge, Very intriguing. Very Dr. Evil of the whole process. So England did not do well yesterday. Yeah, so that was not the kind of start that you were looking for in this window. So yesterday, also in Nations League, just to give you the results. By the way, at noon today, it's Estonia and Azerbaijan. France beat Israel at a -526. Italy and Belgium drew at 2 at a +238, and that was in League A. League B, Austria large favorite, shut out Kazakhstan. Greece was a plus 1109 in the composite, by the way. Greece was a plus 1109 in the composite. England to minus 357. Ireland beat Finland at a plus 154. They were a favorite on the road. Norway beat Slovenia 3-0. They were a minus 149. The Faroe Islands and Armenia in Group C, in League C, at a plus 215. That was a draw. Sadly, our friends from San Marino lost at Gibraltar. San Marino was a plus 562, heading to the Big Rock. Minus 159. Gibraltar won in League D 1-0. North Macedonia won 3-0 at a plus 121 as a road favorite. Moldova, big favorite at home against the Andorrans, who were a plus 1026. Not that adventurous. You look at something that's a plus 1026 or a plus 1109, you're sitting there going, not so sure. Moldova minus 250. They got the Duke yesterday. Hungary and Bosnia and Herzegovina, they drew at a plus 300, basically. Netherlands and Germany, they drew at twos at a plus 252. Man, there's a lot of action that happened yesterday. Latvia beat the Faroe Islands at a plus 106. Malta beat Andorra at a plus 150. It's like all this stuff that yesterday. It's like Faroe Islands and Armenia was a 2-2 draw yesterday, 10 October. Oh, you're looking in September, genius. So, after North Macedonia and Moldova, that was it for yesterday. Then it was a month ago, and I started reading scores from a month ago, looking at September 10th and thinking it was October 10th. But no, the deadline, the demarcation line was the Moldovan Andorra match yesterday in League D. But our friends from San Marino lost yesterday to Gibraltar 1-0. And Liechtenstein, apparently, because, after our friends from San Marino, they ended up getting the longest losing streak at 20, and that got snapped. And so now apparently San Marino, I believe, has an Andorran friendly coming up. And so I think Andorra now has the longest losing streak. I don't know if we are all Andorra, but we'll see. We'll see where it goes. But Andorra and San Marino, I think, are going. They're going head to head next up. Bam with a non-football question this morning. Fan of the Bathurst 1000. What is the Bathurst 1000? Is it an endurance race of some description? Does it go from one end of Australia to the other? Is it kind of like let me know what the Bathurst 1000 is. I've never heard of it. It sounds like an endurance race. So if I'm correct, let me know. But maybe I can be a fan of the Bathurst 1000. Let me know what it is, Bam. By the way, Bam gets full credit, as he always does, for being a part of our universe before he goes to bed. Supercars. Okay, the Mount Panorama. See, I'm going to have to look this up now when the show's over. It's a 1,000-kilometer V8 supercars race that goes around Mount Panorama. I'm going to have to look this up. See, now you're going to send me down a YouTubian rabbit hole, and I'm going to be looking at the Bathurst 1000. And it's going to talk about fantastic finishes and things like that. So I'm going to have to look at this when we're off the air today. Once again, a reminder of stuff later today. We're going to catch up with Chris Martinovich, who is in charge of now Ozark United. Ozark United FC is the new entry in USL that used to be USL NWA, Northwest Arkansas. And so they now have a name, they now have branding, they now have gear, and we're all going to the poorhouse. But Ozark United is now on the board. They had their rollout late last week. And so we're going to catch up with Chris Martinovich later today and find out what it's been like for them to have that rollout as they have been added to the stacks in USL. USL Corpus Christi, we have reached out to them, and we will see what's up with USL Corpus Christi and their facility and being the first professional franchise there in that section of the state. So a lot of activity going on in USL. You'll have later today also the USL Championship review preview, the USL League One review preview now that they're on the other side of the Jägermeister Cup. everybody's chasing after. Everybody is in. That's in, except for the last playoff spot. You've got a lot of teams chasing after that last playoff spot there in USL League One. So we'll go over all of that with you. And then MLS Next Pro will let you know what's going on there as well. So that's what we're staring at. All right. Back-to-back visits. Back-to-back visits with our Mogollon training. It's 9:30. Technically, it's 9:31. So that means I've got to find the fancy open and get the Friday free kick off and running because we have questions. And we'll see if we have answers. Michael Parker is joining us this morning. Cap, what is the word?
Good morning, John. The word is good.
Okay.
It's a Friday. It's beautiful weather here, and I'm playing golf. So
Okay.
Greg caught me by surprise, so I only got about 15 minutes with you, John.
Oh, it's all good. No, if you're playing golf, then that's good. Because I was going to say, is grease the word? Because it's got groove, it's got feeling, and so I
don't think the Greeks have slept yet from last night.
No. All right, so we were getting into that discussion in the first half hour of the show, and when it comes to national team duty in Greece, and when you're in a moment like that where you end up with a big upset after going through what they're going through with the loss of a teammate in George Baldock, how do you navigate something like that where your heart is heavy and your mind is elsewhere? It's got to be one of the most difficult things you could ever face as an athlete. As someone obviously who's never done anything like that, how difficult is it to manage emotions and put things to the side and at the same time try to use it as a motivator? That's got to be one of the most difficult things, going through a difficult time and still having to do your job. That's got to be just one of the most difficult things that you could ever face.
For sure. Absolutely. I had a teammate in Denmark get struck by lightning at a reserve game, and he was close to death for a couple of weeks, and he ended up pulling through and doing okay. But yeah, it's really challenging, but it's an extreme example. But one of the things we talk about is being able to put everything else aside and focus solely on the game and what's going on, right? And kind of that being able to compartmentalize and ignore everything else for the time being. And I think that's what you try and do, right? And also I think it gives you a little bit of motivation because like how lucky you are to be able to play the sport and do your thing, and how all the guys that are in the same situation would want to do that, and so you kind of play for that person a little bit as well. It gives you a little bit of extra motivation for sure, which I think it did for Greece yesterday. So that's the way you got to tackle it a little bit, and but it's easier said than done for sure.
No doubt. And then you get to have the moment that they did yesterday, putting all of the emotion aside, when you can go into somebody else's barn and come out the other end with a massive upset that you can have all kinds of momentum carry with you. What is that like to be able to have the knowledge inside you that, even with everything going on around you, that you can compartmentalize, you can put something down, and then you can come out the other side with a large result that you don't know where it's going to carry you at the end of things, but you have it in you to get together to have a result like that.
Yeah, I think it's probably equal part joy and equal part relief after the game. Getting through that first game is always going to be the most difficult after an event like that. And, to see the team pull together and come through, because just as equally, what could have happened is they could have gone out there and lost 5-0. Mm-hmm. And everyone would have understood and said, hey, that's a tough spot. Obviously England's a far better team anyways, on paper, plus of what happened. And so, to come out there and have the performance that they did I'm sure they were relieved and excited, obviously, and thrilled in the locker room. Now it's like, okay, we're capable of doing this, right? And that motivation is super high. Can we do it again in a few days, or are we going to have a huge letdown?
When it comes to those kinds of moments that you have when you get to come out the other side in something like that, I mean, it's got to be a great lesson on a bunch of different fronts. But on the same side for England, it's got to be a lesson at the same time where you have all of this firepower, all of this star power. And yeah, you could have 11 dudes out there who are great as their own dude in their system with their club. But sometimes the most difficult thing is to take all of that greatness that's out there and put it together as a unit when it comes to, and because you've done this with national teams too, you know what it's all about. Having all of that experience and all these great things that you guys do separately, the difficulty of piecing it together and acting as one to try to come out the other side, that's got to be just as difficult.
For sure. And that's the importance of a great coach, right? These guys don't need to be taught anything per se, but how do you bring them together? How do you get the right guys on the field and playing together in one cohesive unit? And England have struggled with that for a long time. I mean, they've had some success under Southgate and obviously got close, but it's never going home. If there's
not while I'm drinking.
I actually really like a lot of the guys on the English national team, but in general, I can't stand the English national team. And it's mostly because of the fans. Their fans are so obnoxious and think that they are by far the best and most superior and everything. And yet it's not coming home. And, they just show time and time again why.
Oh, boy. Now that the United States has their new manager, that you're getting your first days of the Mauricio Pochettino end product coming up this weekend in this window. How, I don't know, I'm not going to say the word excited, but how are you gauging this first window? What are you looking for? What are you looking at anything? Or are you just sitting there going, yeah, okay, this is a first window. We'll see how it all lays out. It's friendlies. I just want to see like building blocks here. What are your expectations?
Yeah, I think that the thing I'm most curious about is more like what formation is he going to go out there with and what personnel, right? Who in the very beginning does he think he can get good results from? And like, is that the most athletic group? Is it the most experienced group? Is it the, somewhere in between? Like, what is he basing it off of, right? He said previously that playing time is super important. So guys that aren't playing for the club team, are they not going to play, or are they still going to be involved, right? Like those types of things, rather than like, oh shoot, do we dominate the game or whatever? So those are the things that I'm curious about, because not that things can't be changed, but the guys that get first opportunities, it's theirs to lose. And just kind of how he views that and where his initial mind frame is, I think says a little bit.
How do you talk to your mentees about opportunity and taking advantage of it, but at the same time, not, I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this. It's like, you've got an opportunity in front of you, but you don't want to overdo it. You don't want to be too eager. You don't want to be somebody that you're not in trying to secure your place in a new situation. How do you talk to your mentees about the first day at school with the new teacher and making sure that you're not sucking up to the new teacher, but you're showing the new teacher what you can be?
Yeah, first impressions are important. There's no doubt about it, on and off the field. And so, when we're talking about on the field, you've earned an opportunity to not only be on the team, but if you're in the starting lineup, to be in the starting lineup, right? And that's based off of who you are and what you've done, right? So there's no need to be something that you're not. It's just go out there and prove that you are the player that you are and that you can do it, on a consistent basis. So that would be how, I would approach something like that within soccer. But yeah, no, there's no doubt about it. You can come back from a bad first impression, but it takes time. It does take time, and especially the type of coach. I mentor a college player right now, and he didn't have the great first impression. And his coach, and he's got a long battle ahead to try and turn things around, and he hasn't gotten the playing time that he wants because of it. And it's not a lost cause, but it takes time because his coach is like an old school type coach. So yeah, those first impressions are important.
What about 4 more minutes with Michael Parkhurst? I've set my clock to 4 minutes to get you to quarter till. Is it different with first impressions with old school coaches versus younger coaches? In getting your feedback, it's like, yeah, the guy's like 117 years old and he's stuck in his ways versus, yeah, someone who's closer to us in our age group and I can, feel like I can relate better to the younger coach. Do you have those kinds of differences when it comes to navigating this kind of thing too? Are those older coaches stuck in their ways, and is it a harder climb with an older coach than it is with a younger coach, I guess?
In general, more so, yes. I think. Like, it is tough, that balance, John, because that first impression is super important, yet you don't want to put too much pressure on yourself that you fail in those moments. Because I remember one of the first January camps with Klinsman, and a player had gotten his first opportunity with the national team, and he played in the game and he did not do well, and that was it. Like, never again. And so it's just one example, but it happens. And so if you're not ready for that opportunity, you might not get another. And that's just the reality of it, especially at the high level. Now, talking to youth players, it's obviously much different. But yeah, there's an importance there.
2-minute warning. 2 more questions. One, Atlanta United because next time I see you, I think Greg's going to owe you a week. So it might be after the end of the regular season. Atlanta United still in it. They put up a performance against Red Bulls, and now they've got to take care of work.
Mm-hmm.
What is it like in one of these situations where you got to do what you got to do? You can't focus on everybody around you, but you're going to be scoreboard watching on decision day. The difficulties of compartmentalizing there in a situation where you just got to go out and do your thing and hope that things fall your way when it comes to something like what Atlanta United's going through.
Yeah, there's no doubt that you're going to be scoreboard watching. It's just natural and it's going to happen. But it doesn't matter if you don't win, right? It literally nothing matters unless you go out there and win. And so that's obviously the most important thing. You go out there and you win, and you end the season on a high note with 2 straight wins. And will it be absolutely disappointing if they don't make it in? For sure. And it won't be good enough. But at the same time, that's all you can control right now. And we always talk about control what you can control what you can control. And that is your performance against Orlando and going out and getting 3 points. And everything else is going to happen the way it's meant to be. And hopefully that's in Atlanta's favor.
So sub question 1B, how much do you hate the purple team?
Honestly, there's a dislike, but they never beat me, John. So it's tough to hate somebody that you just dunked on for the most of your career, So I don't know. They're just like another team, but I get there's a rivalry, and it was fun to play against them in the rivalry, and then Joseph seeing him do his thing, and so. But for me, honestly, I probably dislike the Red Bulls more than Orlando because of the games that we had against them when I was playing.
Yes. Final question. Evan wants to know how Tidewater Landing is going.
Good. Yeah, it's coming along on target. We're looking at a April opening, so we'll start on the road for just a little bit. But yeah, everything's coming along well, and we've got like our 3D thing going on, and we're doing tours at the stadium, and so it's coming, and yeah, we're excited.
At MF Parkhurst on the 280 character app, at BG Mentoring on the 280 character app, Beyond Goals Mentoring. Go play golf.
You're the man, John.
All right,
have a great weekend.
You too. That's Michael Parkhurst. Back-to-back weeks with Parky. He's going to go play. He's going to go play golf now. And big thanks to Greg and Parky for putting up with my ass on a weekly basis. because I legitimately might have something written down when it comes to a topic and when it comes to mentoring and advice that they are able to impart and move forward. But they'll open a door and then I'll ask a question off of that door that they open. And then they'll open another door and another door and another door. Like I said, I may have like 2 or 3 questions going into a week, or something involving something that Greg would say that I'll write down. Like coaching up when it comes to penalty kicks and things like that. So next time that Greg is on, I ask about penalty kicks and coaching players up. And if you're talking to a keeper, being a mentor or a coach, you're coaching up your keeper in these situations, or the mentality of wanting to step up and participate in penalty kicks. So stuff like that I'll write down, I'll put to the side. But literally it'll be like maybe 1 or 2 questions. And then, they'll open a door. And then they'll open another door. And just going with mentoring question, Atlanta United comparison, national team comparison, and all those kinds of things. So literally they are absolute troopers for putting up with me and my ass every single time they come on the show, because like I said, I'll have an idea and they really don't know the questions. They have never emailed me and they're like, okay, what are we talking about? They come on, we talk, we turn it into a conversation for a half hour, or today in 15 minutes, so Michael could make his tea time. But literally it is a conversation where we're trying to figure out, okay, what do we talk about? And we go from here. Okay, this is new. I'm going to go ahead and block the individual that's on the Twitch pitch at the moment. And I will give you, for those that are just listening and not watching the show this morning, I am going to submit the blocking notice and the information. So I'm hoping, and most of the time our friends at Twitch, they're really good about blocking folks. The handle of this particular entity, gastrointestinal comb, like the thing that you put in your hair to make sure your hair behaves, except it's in your lower GI tract. That's the handle of the bot that just wandered in. Gastrointestinal comb. I don't know if that's meant to part your GI tract a certain way. I don't know if it's like one of those things that if you saw the ad on television, it's like $19.99, 3 installments of which, or get your GI comb for $50 or $49.99, one-time purchase only. That kind of a thing. I don't even know if a GI comb actually exists, but that's the handle for this particular bot. So maybe it just straightens out your GI tract instead of parting it and twisting it and having it be in all different kinds of places. So, like I said, just a thought. All right. News before Bart joins us in about 10 minutes. And Ben Fisher's been a very, very busy man today at the Guardian. Apparently, Nottingham Forest has they're not a fan of the FA, because Nottingham Forest have criticized said FA after being fined £750,000 for their extraordinary social media post about the VAR Stuart Atwell, and have said they will appeal. Forest described as wholly inappropriate the FA's submission that the club should be fined more than £1 million in the penalty imposed by an independent commission. Today they were fined and warned over their future conduct for implying bias and or questioning the integrity of match officials. The club denied the charge, but the commission upheld the FA findings. Once again, this goes back to that match back in April, where Forest felt they should have been awarded 3 penalties during a defeat at Everton. And the laughter that you hear is both Tom Russo and Ropes remembering and cackling over this match. During a defeat at Everton last season, and after the game, posted on their 280-character app account, and I think that this was actually their owner, Evangelinos Marinakis, who told social media to post this. Quote, 3 extremely poor decisions, 3 penalties not given, which we simply cannot accept. We warned the PGMOL that the VAR, Stuart Atwell, is a Luton fan before the game, but they didn't change him. Our patience has been tested multiple times. Nottingham Forest will now consider its options. Forest asked to listen to the VAR audio from the game, a request which PGMOL granted. Club also called for PGMOL to take into account contextual rivalries when making referee and VAR appointments, but when the allegiances criteria were published at the start of the season, this was not included. Forest responded to the fine by releasing a statement saying they were extremely disappointed by the decision, particularly concerned that the FA, in its submissions, sought a sanction in excess of £1 million. We believe that this request, along with the subsequent fine, is wholly disproportionate, and the club will be appealing the decision. The commission said Atwell had set out in a statement, quote, the stress, distress, fear, and embarrassment caused to him as a result of Forest's post. It also said the impact on him had been very significant indeed. So Nottingham Forest not happy over the fact that they were charged by the FA and end up with a £750,000 fine. Okay, so I'm not going to post this publicly, Hutch, but thank you for letting me know what a GT Comb sign is. That's just blech. Ooh. If you want to read it in Twitch pitch, Hutch is very good about these kinds of things. Far more ethereally intelligent than I, and so things like our buddy that we muted and blocked and reported as a bot. Hutch lets us know what exactly the GI Comb is and does. Manchester City is going to appoint Sporting's Hugo Viana as the new sporting director. He's going to report the former Portugal midfielder is going to replace Shiki Begiristain. He's been overseeing great success at Sporting in Lisbon. And so, of course, this happens the day after we talk to Nino Torres at Gold TV and find out. So we're going to have to put a bookmark in Hugo Viana, and when he comes on next week, we're going to have to talk about Hugo Viana leaving Sporting, because remember, Sporting right now at the top of the table in Portugal, they only have the one draw, 7 wins and a draw. They are first by a handful of points, and then their gap between first and third is already 8 points. And we've already talked about Victor Gyökeres and everybody that's attached to Sporting. And so Hugo Viana looks like he is going to be the new early next year. He's going to take over. He's going to work with Begiristain before he takes over the role at the end of the season. When it became clear that Begiristain was set to depart after 12 years, they were looking for a replacement. Viana has been admired in the sport for what he has been able to do. 6 years, 2 Premier League titles, become known for sourcing young, talented players from around the world, overseeing the sales of Ugarte, Nunez, and Nuno Mendes in recent summers. And he also takes credit for bringing in Ruben Amorim, and we talked about Amorim yesterday, coming from Braga to Sporting. And so Viana had seen what Amorim could bring to the table. And so Sporting hires Amorim. They've got 2 titles. They've got Gyökeres, and they are right now on top in the Primeira Liga in Portugal. City waiting to resolve the future of Pep Guardiola prior to his contract running out in the summer. Travel to Sporting in November for a Champions League group stage fixture that will see Viana come up against his future employers. So there's so you got that. And there's also a story in The Guardian. More than 100 raccoons besiege a house of a woman who'd been feeding them. Sorry, it's a Friday. I'm going to click on this. Okay. Guardian State, and this is in Washington State. And there's a photo, and I don't know if it's a stock photo or not. Quote, Guardian staff. Bart Keeler said to join us in 5 minutes. Feeding wild raccoons around her home, it seemed harmless enough, if odd, for one woman in the Northwest for 35 years. Until about 100 of them surrounded her home and demanded food. The woman, who has not been named, was essentially trapped in her home near Poolsbo, Washington, and scared as the animals can be aggressive. She called the sheriff's office, saying the raccoons were around her place day and night after their population, quote, exploded about 6 weeks ago. Kevin McCarty, spokesperson for the Kitsap County Sheriff, told 9 News Quote, somehow the word got out in raccoon land and they all showed up to her house expecting a meal. He sent deputies to help the woman. Quote, they were shocked. They had never seen that many raccoons in one place. Nobody ever remembers being surrounded by a swarm of raccoons. This was a first, he told the TV station. The sheriff's office even posted about it on social media with some extraordinary footage showing the raccoons as if they had decided to hold a convention in a backyard. At Kitsap Co-Sheriff, by the way. I'm going to post the Twitter handle. Kitsap Co-Sheriff. This is what happens on Fridays, people. At Kitsap Co-Sheriff. That is the Twitter handle that has the video of all of these damn raccoons. Story continues. Neighbors have not exactly been thrilled about the animals, who can be threatening and are often nicknamed trash bandits, or in Huntsville, trash pandas. Damn good minor league logo, by the way. For their dark fur color across the eyes, making them look like masked thieves, or trash pandas for their proclivity to dive into trash cans looking for scraps. Quote, I'd say it's been about the last month or so I've noticed it. Wendy Kronk, who lives nearby, told 9 News, quote, I've had several raccoons in the yard recently. My dogs have gotten in a scuffle several times with a raccoon. I've even had to take one of my dogs to the vet after tussling with a raccoon. And I've also noticed there's been a lot of more hit raccoons up on the main road here. End quote. Kronk said she hopes it gets resolved soon. Quote, I just hope that somebody steps in and helps her take care of this problem, and hopefully she'll quit doing it, said Kronk, end quote. So the lesson here, I guess, the lesson here is to, I don't know, not feed raccoons. Don't do it. Hutch reminding us in the PSA then we got that in the copy toward the end of the article. Raccoons, as a PSA, are asymptomatic carriers of rabies. So this woman decides, I'm going to feed the raccoons. Not knowing, I guess, that raccoons are something of nature's equivalent to the tribble. They do multiply, and they do multiply quickly. When they decide to that they're going to expand the numbers in the species, the litters of the trash pandas are not just like 1 or 2. It's like 8, 10, So if you had, say, 8 couples of raccoons, trash pandas, and they decided that, we're going to we're going to expand the brood. Literally, if you had 8 couples and they just happen to live in the same subdivision, that's your 100 right there, like that. So don't feed raccoons, people. Deers, I can understand. Moose, I could understand. Raccoons, who are, according to Hutch, asymptomatic carriers of rabies, not so much. They might be cute like 1 or 2, but then 1 or 2 turns into 100 apparently pretty damn quick. So don't feed raccoons, especially if you live in a forest, because the odds of the expansion of the species, I'd say, are pretty large. Just saying. Hutch says Hutch's dog got a 45-day home quarantine for a tussle with a raccoon. This is what I'm saying, as mentioned in the article. Look, you get a tussle with a raccoon, you're hanging out at home. But yeah, literally, Kitsap County Sheriff wanders up to the woman's house, sees like 100 raccoons. Is like, yes, Derek, absolutely correct. Derek, raccoon feeders. Raccoon feeders go well past the yellow card. You go straight red. So raccoon feeders get straight red cards. Bart Keeler set to join us here in the next couple of minutes because we got stuff to talk about involving the men's national team and what they are up to with Mauricio Pochettino. By the way, and this is just one guide of grades from yesterday's England and Greece match, and I think that this is probably a little more tame than others. It's like there were some entities that were giving out ones. Jordan Pickford got a 4. Trent Alexander-Arnold got a 4. John Stones got a 4. As an example. Oh, boy. Jordan Pickford spread panic with a horror moment in possession early on and continued to struggle. Yes, he did. He got a 4. Trent Alexander-Arnold, passing was off. John Stones, lacking match sharpness. Levi Caldwell, busy night. He got a 5. Rico Lewis got a 5. Declan Rice got a 4. Cole Palmer got a 4. Wasted in a deep roll. Bukayo Saka got a 5. And he was limping off, and so folks are concerned. Phil Foden lost in a free roll, got a 4. Jude Bellingham got a 5. Anthony Gordon got a 4. Noni Madueke got a 5. Ollie Watkins and Dominic Solanke got 6s. So there you go. We're bringing in Bart because it's after the top of the hour. Hi, Bart.
Hello there.
What's the mug? Oh,
got share this morning.
Yes, you have Churl and Sarkeesian. Yes. So, all right. So I've heard, and please pardon my lack of a camera for a couple of moments. I have heard that there is something that is going on involving the national team this weekend that might be worthy of discussion, as we did with our friend Michael Parkhurst before you came on this morning to discuss what's going on with Mauricio Pochettino, who I've heard is the I don't know if you know this, but he is apparently the new men's national team coach, and he has been seen looking at MLS Next Pro games in Austin, Texas, in shorts and shoes without socks.
Yeah, that's kind of the headline this weekend in the U.S. soccer world. Is it's the first game of the Mauricio Pochettino era.
There's a new coach. The new phone books are here.
We got a new guy in charge. And I think a lot of people would argue that this is one of the most important coaching hires in U.S. soccer history. Not when you consider that this is the coach who's supposed to take us to the World Cup that we are hosting in 18 months.
Yeah.
But also, just the stature and the resume that he brings. It's definitely, and not to besmirch anyone who was before this, but definitely the most decorated coaching hire since Bora, which was for the 94 World Cup. So it's important to just see what Poch is going to change about this team, if anything, and what he values on the field at the international level. Because, Sean, the roster isn't much different, and the roster changes that we had this window were more because a ton of people are injured. Yes. So, I don't think we learned anything new about his particular depth chart or the depth chart of the national team, but we can learn how he's going to set them up, how he's going to deploy certain players, looking at maybe Christian Pulisic on the right, looking at Malik Tillman, maybe Haji Wright starting on the left, one of those two guys. That's really the only change I perceive really seeing. But, then the mentality and the general tactics. Are we going to go from the boring, plodding, scripted drive Berhalter ball to energetic, fun, bumper car-esque Pochettino ball? I think he's, I don't know, I'm sure Jason can speak a little bit more, but if you're going on the Bielsa-istas, Bielcistas, those gents, I think he's the farthest from Bielsa in terms of what he wants to do on the field, but there's still a lot of that to it. And I'm interested to see how that plays out with this team, a team of Americans, and Americans always being known for hustling and working hard. So there's a lot of things you can look for on the field, despite, the roster not being very different.
You mentioned hustling and working hard. Mike Woitala over at Soccer America mentioned in a conversation with Tim Ream after the first two training sessions, quote, There were a lot of individual conversations, understanding us as people, and they've continued throughout as the hours have ticked. You see certain guys getting pulled to have sit-down chats. I think it's great. Harry Kane, when he was first exposed to Pochettino, when we first met, he was very easy to talk to. You could tell straight away, very respectful, wanted to get to know everyone, all the players, all the young ones as well. Sometimes when a manager comes, he just wants to know the leaders. And apparently it's intense training and a lot of individual conversations, according to Mike.
Well, I think that's the quote that's been kind of taken, not necessarily out of context, but of course spun to mean that everything that we've ever done in U.S. soccer is terrible, is the idea that there was a 2-hour training session. And I think part of that is what you just described. Well, Waitala described is, I don't know if they were training the full 2 hours, but they were on the field for 2 hours doing work. And it seems like Pochettino also wanted to make sure that he doesn't have a whole lot of time to install whatever system or philosophies he wants to. And, you're going to need a lot of time in your first camp. As we know, it's not like international windows you have a lot of time for actual training. So
I want to install this new system.
Yeah, it's going to take if you don't have the physical days, right, you're going to need to take a little bit longer in those days. And that's just, to me, what this was is more, as you described, him talking, learning, explaining, so that guys can understand that feedback in the moment, but not just yelling an instruction, but having that sit down to understand them, what they feel, what they see, what they do.
I feel like the song that has popped into my head is "Getting to Know You."
Yeah.
Getting to know
Yes.
you, getting to know all about you. One of those kind of things. That's what we're staring at here.
Absolutely. And that's the goal for this camp. I think he made that very clear at the beginning, of not only when he was hired, but also when he kind of released the roster for this camp. This is a, handshakes, fist bumps, hugs, and, speed dating type thing.
Speed dating is probably, you ain't wrong.
I mean, but that's what it is, because, again, I'll say it, and I guess I have to shout it. It's not like the American player pool somehow just magically both improved and increased, right? It's not what happened here. But we have a lot of talent. We have a lot of good players pool, more than we've ever had before. And now Pochettino's job is to maximize that talent. And part of that is understanding the players as people, but also understanding the players as players and understanding where they can be put on the field to best help their game thrive and best help the team thrive.
You look at the 5 assistants, no real shock, because pretty much when you're the new boss and you've been hired, you're going to bring in your guys. No real shock.
Right.
Jesus Perez, Antonio Jimenez, Argentine Miguel de Agostino. They've worked with him at each of his 5 clubs. His son began working with him back in 2016 at Spurs. And then Silvia Tuyavinas is the new strength and conditioning coach. And obviously, the Tim Ream said basically it's the same thing. It's like, yeah, we want to get to know them. They want to get to know us. And looking at previous players, Danny Rose, who was 24, recalled thinking he'd played a good game. The next day I went into his office and he had 26 video clips showing everything I did wrong. But Pochettino inspired and impressed Rose. I used to think you had to have older, experienced players to challenge at the top of the league. He's proved me and everybody else wrong. Rose was eventually named captain, would say the best friend I have at the club is my manager.
Right. And I think that's something that speaks to not just his man management, but his respect that he gets from players. He's obviously earned and built a lot of respect from what he did at Tottenham, then, I guess what he did at PSG. And I think the fact that he's still so well respected despite a Chelsea tenure, that, to be fair to him, I think he laid a lot of groundwork for why they're having success now. He kind of reestablished a sense of, I don't even know if it's a sense of club, but just some sense of like, oh, we're a team working together, as opposed to whatever, I don't know, a collection of 72 men who happen to share the same badge. But he is very well respected, so I don't think he has the same problem of a player maybe not respecting him, but that is an anecdote of how he still earns that respect on a daily basis because he's careful to explain, right? He's not shouting. He's not just saying you didn't do this well. It's this is what we want you to do better. And so, finding solutions or offering alternatives is better than just saying you didn't do it correctly.
What? So you mean saying that, hey, let's work on this instead of saying, hey, you suck, go sit down is
Which,
different.
to be fair, is not saying that the guy before him didn't. I just think that that's, again, a managerial style that makes a whole lot of sense.
Who in this particular camp, and yes, I know it's speed dating, and I know that we have kind of crashed into Shea Soccer Bistro here.
Yep.
As sitting there and we're looking at the speed dating tables down the middle. That's like 2 minutes, time, change, in this particular camp with the same batch of folks that we're used to seeing, with maybe a couple of different folks. Who are you looking at here that under new management could be flourishing more than they have in the past under old management? Or is it going to be, because obviously the starting 11, we would anticipate in a perfect world, everybody healthy is going to be the same starting 11. Is there anybody like maybe a Malik Tillman who now with an opportunity like this, you're sitting there and thinking, okay, this dude who I think should have been getting a chance under previous administrations now might be getting a chance under the Pochettino administration? Is there anybody in there that pops into your head?
Well, it's hard to tell because there are so many injuries that have taken opportunities away from guys who maybe would have been in that role because they're just higher up on the depth chart. That said, a guy like Tanner Tessman or Aiden Morris has a great opportunity to earn the trust of the manager, right? Over, say, a Johnny Cardoso, who we know did not play well last camp and isn't here because of injury and had a chance to, kind of start with the clean slate. So those two specifically have an opportunity in this camp. Now, that said, it's very likely that Yunus Musa is starting in the, defensive midfield position. But again, Morris and Tessman have an opportunity, and maybe Busio, but I don't think Busio is playing in the deep lying midfield position. I just don't think that's where he needs to play. But, those guys have an opportunity to show that they can be trusted. Same with the right back battle between Marlon Fossey and Joe Scally, because I think though he hasn't seen him in the U.S. uniform, I'm sure Mauricio Pochettino can watch tape and evaluate that Sergiño Dest is our best option at right back, and probably a top 3 player on the team. But again, it's building that trust. And, every manager has players they trust, because those players do what is asked of them, is what that trust usually boils down to. That doesn't mean that they're always starting, but that does mean that they, are guys who they know, okay, if I tell him to do B, C, and F, he's going to do that for me. He may not be able to do all 26 letters of the alphabet, but he can do 5. And that is what we're looking at for the defensive mid and the right back role. Now, the other thing here, John, is, and this is not necessarily related to Pochettino, but Flair and Balogun out injured.
Mm-hmm.
All 72 other forwards, I think, are called into camp now. Right, because you had 3 forwards. Balogun gets dropped. You added Vasquez, and you still have a guy like Haji Wright in there as well. So you have 3 guys with Pepe, Sargent, Vasquez who have an opportunity to, if not, look, if they score in any of these games, they've already done better than most of them did in the Berhalter era. This is going to be interesting because that's kind of my key that I'm looking for the Pochettino system, style, whatever you want to call it, is how do we get the striker more involved? Because that was a plague under the Berhalter regime.
A pox on your house, Mr. Berhalter. You'll have no strikers.
The strikers just, never got involved in games. So how does Pochettino do that? Well, these 3 gentlemen are going to be tasked with, executing that game plan. And I'm curious to see who gets the start Saturday, but maybe even more so who gets that start Tuesday in Guadalajara.
So then
Vasquez, I think that's the best narrative.
I was going to say, so what's your gut tell you? So
Well,
let
I
me
think
phrase
I
it- let
think
me phrase
I
it
think
this way.
Sargent and Pepe. I think Sargent or Pepe. And Sargent needs to stay healthy for more than a day.
Whew.
So that's his task this camp is to stay healthy, right?
Don't get injured.
2-hour training session. I thought, oh my gosh, we're gonna get so many guys get hurt. But that's something that Sargent, I think everyone's looked at him as the most talented, well-rounded striker in the pool. But again, it's about how do you execute in the moment? How do you go out there and perform at game time? And he hasn't had that opportunity because he's been hurt for, basically since the World Cup in 2022. While Pepe has been playing and starting. So, and scoring, more importantly. So that is not necessarily Pochettino, but the forward group is one that has a lot of opportunities to prove that they belong here, earn trust, not just with Pochettino, but the fan base and everything.
I was going to ask. So your gut tells you one thing. Do you anticipate seeing something else when it comes to the striker position?
No, I mean, I think we'll see split minutes, John, because again, I don't think Balogun being here, he would have been probably, in my opinion, obviously he has to earn it, but he's still the most talented striker we have. He's obviously playing in the best league of all the strikers. He's scoring in that league. I thought he had a very good Copa America, despite, again, the striker not being fully involved. He scored. So without him, I don't know who that number one is. And so for my personal taste, that means I want to rotate minutes to see who can execute in live action, because, I don't think it's worth giving Pepe or Sargent 80 minutes and then you get a cameo appearance from one of the other guys. I think you do need to rotate. Now, that also said, John, and I will again reiterate this because narrative matters over reality, Brandon Vazquez playing in Estadio Akron, scoring against Mexico would be the best narrative. And if that happens, then watch out, because we will be insufferable on Twitter for the next however long until we play Mexico.
So let's see. Instead of it being Open Cup hero Brandon Vasquez, it would be national team hero Brandon Vasquez,
which he's done before. He has scored for the national team. He hasn't had a whole lot of opportunities. He's cooled down significantly from his initial move to Monterrey.
Mm-hmm.
And, not in a bad way. He's still starting and playing. So clearly the club still sees him as, a good player, but he hasn't been scoring at the clip. I mean, I think he was averaging like a goal and a half a game for like 5 matches. So he's obviously regressed to the mean, but that doesn't mean he's not a very good and active striker for Monterrey, and that he can't do that for the national team.
Walk me through your starting 11 and walk me through what you think the starting 11 is going to be and how different they may be.
All right. My starting 11 is Schulte.
Yes. Like I said, this is why I'm like, I want you to tell me why.
Because he's playing soccer, John.
He's a functioning player who's breathing and actually,
which is more than you can say for the other two. And Zach Steffen's a bad goalkeeper, so I'm
with his feet specifically. Yes,
he's just bad. But Schulte for me starts, and then you go. I would go Fossey.
See, but you go Fossey, and I go Fossey, and that's all I'm thinking.
I know. He had it coming. Fossey, McKenzie, Robinson, Jedi. My midfield 3, because I think Poch did basically say we're either playing like a 4-3-3 or a 4-2-3, whatever way you want to put 3 midfielders and 3 attackers out there, whatever formation you want to call it. Okay. I know Jason's coming on later, so he can pontificate about the senselessness of actual formation. But my midfield 3 is probably Musa, McKinney. I'm going to put Aronson in there.
Okay.
And then my front 3 are Pulisic on the right, Sargent in the middle, and I'm starting Tillman on the left, which he's been starting a lot for PSV and playing very well. So I think the reason for that is, John, I'm putting Pulisic and Tillman in positions they're currently playing for their club. And I don't know if you've heard this, but Christian Pulisic is the best player that Serie A has ever seen, ever. Nick Alifi will validate that for me.
I'm sure he will. Absolutely. Yeah.
But he's doing this on the right side, right? And then also with Tillman, he's doing this on the left wing. So I'm putting players in positions they are currently playing and excelling in. So that's why I do Pulisic on the right, Tillman on the left. Whatever you just said, Abby, celebrating meaningful and easy fast. I agree.
Yes.
Enjoy your celebration with your family and loved ones.
Yes.
What I think Pochettino will do, I don't know, because we don't know what he truly values, but I don't think I think you'll see Ream and one of McKenzie or Robinson in the center back. I wouldn't surprise me if he still has Schulte starting for the reasons I listed. He is playing soccer currently, which is better than you can say for either Horvath or for Matt Turner. I wouldn't be surprised if Fossey starts at right back for the fact that, I mean, I think there's a hunch that there was a little bit of shadow coaching from Pochettino last camp to get Fossey in. I think when you're talking about Panama specifically, you're not worried about them attacking you in the same way that you are Mexico. So I think for Fossey to be on the field gives you more attacking options, and you're not as worried defensively. It wouldn't shock me in the midfield if he does like Tessman or Morris and then Musa McKinney.
Mm-hmm.
Mainly because I think he will want to try actually having like a defensive midfielder. And that's the question I have about this in general, John, is how much of this is put the best 11 out there and how much of this is put the players out there to execute the game plan that he's set forth, because we're still in the early stages, right?
Okay.
But he also said very clearly that he wants to win friendlies. So I do think that Musa and McKinney in the midfield at some level give you the best option, whether that's with an Aronson or Tillman, or if that's with a Tessman or Morris, I don't know. And then I do think that he will do Tillman. I really think he'll still put Tillman on the left and Pulisic on the right. I haven't heard him say anything necessarily about that, but again, just to my point of that's where they're currently playing. And we saw Pulisic on the left wing all the time under Berhalter. There was no moving him around. I don't think there's any real value in just holding to that.
Mm-hmm.
And again, if the dude is playing out of his mind on the right wing for Milan, why are we moving him to the left wing just because? Why? And also, I don't know who plays at right wing behind him. It's not going to be Centejas. So, you have better options at left wing and Tillman or Haji right. So why not put Pulisic on the right and put one of those two guys on the left? And then I would imagine that Sargent or Pepe starts. I just don't know. It's hard to tell who's going to. I don't know. I'm not there in camp, so I can't tell you who's performing better. I know. So.
All right. So then, since you're not in camp, I'm going to ask you this anyway. Who do you think could benefit from this the most? And it could be someone that we're seeing starting traditionally in the 11, or someone that we have not seen. Like I said, Malik Tillman, Josh Sargent would be two of those names off the board.
I think Tillman's the one that has the most room to. Because two things, John. One, new coach for the national team. And to be fair to Berhalter, it's not like Tillman showed him that he deserved to be playing there, right? Tillman has to show up because he's showing up at the club level. And so right now he's having a very good run of form with PSV Eindhoven, a very good team. He's playing very good soccer. He's playing on a team playing very good soccer. And if he can take that mojo, bring it stateside, bring it to Austin, Texas with him, I think he can, again, it's just one impression, maybe two impressions. But if his first impression on the field can be PSV, Malik Tillman, then I think that's going to be a really good first impression. And I think he has the opportunity to put himself up there as possibly the next left winger. Because again, obviously with Berhalter, when Tim Weah and Christian Pulisic are healthy, you want to get those two guys on the field. But Tim Weah is not healthy right now. So Tillman has an opportunity there specifically. But I think also when you're looking at guys who have a chance under Pochettino to kind of elevate their own stock within the pool, it is a guy like Sargent who hasn't been healthy for forever, maybe finally is, right? And does so many things at the striker position very well.
Mm-hmm.
But again, both of those, Tillman and Sargent, that's on them. That has nothing to do with the coach, right? That has to do with them seizing the opportunity in front of them. And for Sargent, it's can he take advantage of the fact that he's healthy? Because he hasn't been in forever.
All things being equal, is there still in your mind someone who should be in camp that has not been in camp for one reason or another, whether it's scheduled crossovers, just not being a teacher's pet, he comes to school in a bowl cut and a t-shirt, and everybody looks at him funny, and it's like, why are you here? Is there somebody still that we're missing that's a part of the roster / equation that we haven't seen?
No.
Okay.
I'll be honest with you. You could make the argument that a guy like Jordan Pefok should get another look. Maybe wasn't looked at seriously enough under Berhalter, but he also didn't take advantage of his opportunities. And so when you miss a sitter in Azteca to get a win in qualifying, and you just completely blow it, it's hard for me to look at you and say, yeah, I trust you type of thing. And I know there's only one moment and he was still in the right spot, and finishing is not automatic, but things like that are reasons why I don't think he got called in as much. But new coach, you have the opportunity to open the playbook a little bit more, venture deeper into the player pool. So I do think another striker like Pefok could be a guy you look at, but he's doing that with Vasquez, right? Vasquez is, I don't know if that means he's the fourth starter or fourth striker on the depth chart, but he has a chance to make himself that. But there's not a lot of guys that I think are missing. Now, there are some that I would like to be seen called in. Brian Reynolds would be one at right back. But if Marlon Fossey is doing it, who kind of is in a similar vein as Brian Reynolds, he's just, 3-4 years older in terms of guy doing a decent job in a, second tier top flight league. That's a good thing, right? So that's that. I'm interested to see the development of Josh Winder at Benfica. A lot was made because it was reported he'll be training with the first team during this international break, which I hope he does. That would be a waste of an international break by a club to not bring up young players to the first team. But he and Jalen Neal are guys who we've seen in the past. Dietz, who played at the Olympics, are guys who are starting to get to that age where they need to put together consistent performances at professional level to be considered legitimate prospects for the future. And with the new coach, again, you just have a chance to, in his eyes, give him something new to look at. But I don't think there's anyone who's screaming for, oh, he must be in camp. Maybe Guzan.
Yeah, there you go. Considering
I'm
that,
joking.
hey, man. I know.
Is that bait to talk about Brooks Lennon, who hasn't been good this year and probably should be left either unprotected for the expansion draft or traded in the offseason?
Well, we get into those discussions come expansion draft time. There was Josh Winder. I think that speaks a lot to what Danny Cruz has been able to do up at Lou City. And you're seeing Lou City being one of those USL championship locations that is finding talent, whether it's Harris or Josh Winder and moving them on and getting them over into the European theater. Something in USL Championship that we've only seen a couple of times, but once again, you gravitate toward Lou City and what they're doing. So they're building something. I'm still wondering why Danny Cruz isn't getting looked at by Major League Soccer or any other first or second division clubs overseas.
Name a USL coach who has had success in MLS.
I know.
I mean, I hate to say it that way, but it's not like we've seen a guy come in.
But I would also maintain that USL Championship is different now than it has been in years past.
I agree. I mean, we also still haven't seen a player truly come from USL and dominate MLS. I mean, Diego Luna kind of counts, but like not really. I'm with you, John, but I'm cautious. But USL can also find its own way to churn out young prospects, get them to Europe, like Lou City is doing. Hopefully, something that we can see from more established clubs like where's Tampa Bay, who's been around for decades.
Well, Tampa Bay. I think Tampa Bay is going their way with veterans as opposed to.
I know that's the point.
That's
but there are a lot of other clubs. I mean, Phoenix should be one. They've got an actual complex that they can play with.
38th in Washington, brother. Absolutely.
Like San Antonio.
They've had some turnover. Oh, that reminds me. Where are we in the month? That reminds me. The last Thursday of the month.
Maybe we're just going to get a lot of talent coming out of Rhode Island.
See, there you go. All right. So the last Thursday of the month or last Tuesday of the month would be the 29th. So you're reminding me that Keeler has to be on the show but before the playoffs. So Keeler on the last Tuesday of the month on the 29th. See, I wrote that down on my calendar and all that jazz. Episode 98, we're coming to a milestone here. So we are coming toward episode C of the Soccer for USPOD. I didn't want to steal from episode 98 and talking about things this morning because I wanted folks to listen to episode 98. So what are they missing from what we didn't talk about today?
Well, so Thomas and I talk about because it's really hard for any friendly to get cut, and despite what USMNT Twitter does, it's hard to get caught up in any one result. What we are looking for is performance. That said,
hey, talk to England about Greece.
Well, that was a competitive match, not a friendly. That said, and I tweeted this the other day. Follow me on Twitter at Soccer for Us Pod. While friendlies don't functionally matter, who cares if you actually win? U.S. Soccer or the USMNT right now is currently ranked 3rd in CONCACAF, which is shocking. But Canada and Panama both had, Canada had a better Copa America that gave them a lot of points, right? Yeah. When you look at the multipliers. The problem is, if you look at the rankings formula, the Copa America is weighted much higher than friendlies, like the triple. Actually. Yeah. The problem now is that if you're the USMNT, November becomes possible. Right now, November, if you stay in 3rd, is a matchup between Costa Rica or Jamaica. Ooh. Two-legged quarterfinal. Now, you should be able to beat both at home by a sizable margin.
Correct.
On the road, places Costa Rica where we've never won, and Jamaica where it seems like we can't find a win recently.
And if Andre Blake is in net.
Right. So, that is undesirable. But you're only 20 points behind Canada. So I'm talking math, and I don't like math. So excuse me, everyone on the Twitch pitch. You're 20 points behind Canada, right? A friendly result, the multiplier is 17.5. Okay. So it's 17.5 times whatever the expected result is.
Okay, so if you win by 2, that's 35.
It's not necessarily, but something like that, right? Okay. Like you have an opportunity to, given your score line and everything, to get more than 20 points in one friendly, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Canada is playing host to Panama this window. So they are playing only one friendly. US is playing 2. One of those is a road match against a higher ranked team in CONCACAF.
Yes.
That's an opportunity. If you just talk about the 17.5 times whatever that expected outcome is, right? Your expected outcome versus actual outcome basically is what I think it's expected minus actual or actual minus expected. I forget the formula, but whatever.
It's math.
It's math. Point is, you have a higher degree of difficulty down in Mexico. So a draw or a win in Mexico can catapult you into second. And now you're talking about going to Nicaragua or Guatemala, which are much more favorable opponents than Costa Rica and Jamaica, right?
Yes.
That's assuming that Costa Rica and Jamaica in this window of the Nations League do their business, which I don't have any reason to believe they wouldn't.
Because you always need somebody to do their business when they're supposed to.
Yeah. So anyway, though, we didn't talk about that on the show because that is way
because
too,
it's math. Damn it!
I don't like math, but I was doing the math earlier this week, and I was like, oh shit, this actually could, there you go, matter, right? And so I think it's important to get a win for a number of reasons. We talked about this on episode 98. But the most important thing is you want to see this team play good soccer and see evidence of a shift in tactical direction.
Okay. And you can pick that up. That'll be posted after we get off the air this morning, episode XCV III, because I don't know if episode IIC is the proper Roman numeralization of it, but episode 98. We
well,
probably,
you were there when they were written, John, so I'd assume you would know.
Thank you. Yes. So we got to figure out when you hit 100 if we're going to have Serpentina delivered to the.
Well, episode 100 might just be so we have the men's friendlies obviously this week, and finishing Tuesday we'll probably record after that, and then the next week we'll get a women's roster because they play the week after next weekend. So as you've seen with the men's team, you usually get the roster the week before training camp starts so that you can put the roster out, and then you have a week of league play, and then you figure out who got hurt, and then you make replacements, and then you go into training camp. So we're a couple weekends removed from U.S. women's national team play, and so we'll get a training camp roster soon.
Yeah, I saw the news on Andy Sullivan come out the other day, and
that was tough. Someone who I've been not championing, but someone who I've been thinking should maybe get another look for the women's national team. Another one is Ashley Sanchez, by the way, who's having a terrific year down in North Carolina. Change of scenery, going from smoggy DC to the tree-covered streets of Cary, North Carolina.
All right, so you're back with us on Monday to break down everything that happened.
Talk about the Panama match and other things that happened this weekend in the world of international soccer. We obviously have Nations League going on both in CONCACAF and in Europe. I know that England doesn't care about Nations League because, that's not real soccer, and that's why they keep finding ways to fall down the league's ladder. Best to them. Thoughts and prayers, and
All right, so we will catch up with you again on Monday, my friend. Thanks for dropping by on a Friday, and enjoy the rest of your cup of coffee. Who's West Virginia got this weekend?
Iowa State at home.
Okay.
At night. It's an 8 p.m. kickoff, and we are wearing the all-black uniforms for the Coal Rush. So
there you go. See, now the Coal Rush, that is an underrated uniform that folks need to buy.
It is very cool. Yeah, and also WVU men's soccer playing Georgia Southern tonight down in
Yes. So Bart's very busy. So we'll see you on Monday, my friend. Thanks as always for dropping by, especially on short notice.
Yeah. Cheers, y'all. Have a good one.
There goes Bart with Chur, and he's going to enjoy the rest of his day. And because you can never turn back town. Sorry, the boss has been watching a lot of Will and Grace lately. Yes, Derek, I'm right there with you. Canada goes straight from, it's a straight red. It is not a yellow card. It is a straight red, Canada. Let's see. We mentioned what was going on in Europe, or specifically England. Yesterday in South America, and our buddy Nino Torres was absolutely WhatsApp messaging the daylights out of me after what was going on yesterday. And it was Brazil 2-1 winners over Chile. Early this morning, by the way, New Zealand was a minus 10,000 and ended up beating Tahiti by the final of 3-0. So it was Brazil last night beating Chile by the score of 2-1. And that was a big result there. Ecuador and Paraguay. You had draws last night. Venezuela. Why was Venezuela? You had Brazil beat Chile last night. Ecuador beat Paraguay. Ecuador and Paraguay had a 0-0 draw at a plus 265. So that's a big result. That's a big point for Paraguay. Venezuela. Vamos Venezuela. They drew Argentina 1-1 at a plus 264. Argentina was a minus 167 going into that match. And going into La Paz, we always know it's going to be tough. Bolivia beats Colombia 1-0 at a plus 222. They were a home dog and got the win last night. So Bolivia gets the 1-0 win over Colombia. So what does that mean, you ask? Well, I'll tell you. Argentina still 3 points clear with the Colombia loss. They gained 2 points on the night. Halfway through qualifying, halfway through the blender that is CONMEBOL, Colombia is now 3 points back, and they've only scored 9 goals in the first 9 matches. You got to the halfway point. You're 4-4-1, but you've only scored 9. You've only scored 9 goals. Argentina with the draw, 13 goals, 5 allowed. Uruguay has closed the gap. Uruguay just continues to grind out results. They are now a point back of Colombia in second. Brazil has now won 2 of 3, and they're at 13 points in fourth. Ecuador has hit each column once in their last 3. With the draw, they are at 12 points, including the points deduction. Bolivia is behind in goal difference. Bolivia scores the ish out of the ball. Ecuador has scored 6 goals in 9 matches. They've only given up 4, though. So Ecuador, with the points deduction, is in 5th. Bolivia, 12 points. Worst goal difference is in 6th. Venezuela, who has only lost once in their last 5, but they've all been draws. They haven't been winning anything in their last 5. Only the 1 loss, but they're at 11 points, and they've drawn 2 in a row, 4 or 5. Paraguay is kind of hanging out now. Paraguay didn't lose any space with the draw yesterday, so they're at 10 points. Chile has lost 4 in a row. They're at 1-2-6, kids. Chile's at 1-2-6. They've allowed 14 goals in 9 matches. Getting to the halfway point, they've only scored 5. And Nino's beloved Peru is at 0-3-5 through their first 8. Remember, the match with Uruguay was the one that got postponed. So Peru has a match in hand with everybody below them, but they're going to need results even just to kind of get up the table, even if they're not going to finish in the qualifying spot. Because remember, 6 automatic qualifiers, 7 goes up against Oceania, I think, to figure out which one is the team that gets in. So that's where things currently are with South America in CONMEBOL qualifying. The next matches, once again, today, Peru and Uruguay. And then in the midweek on Tuesday, so we'll have stuff to talk about with Nino when he comes back on Thursday. Everybody's playing on Tuesday. So Colombia, favored at home against Chile. Chile is a plus 718 going on the road. Paraguay favored at home. Venezuela's a plus 378 heading on the road. Uruguay's a minus 167 hosting Ecuador, who's a plus 503. Argentina at home is a minus 2,500 hosting Bolivia on Tuesday, who's a plus 3236 in the composite. So if you got $5, put it on the draw, it's a plus 1250. And then Brazil hosting Nino's beloved Peru. Minus 500 for Brazil and plus 1176 in the composite. Your draw is a plus 517. So that's where you are involving the activity in CONMEBOL, the craziness that is CONMEBOL. So you have all of that to stare at over the weekend. And you can stare about that on. You could look at it on Fanatis, looking at the previous round. There was some that's available on. I want to say it was either 2 to NA or Univision, somewhere in there. If you get VIX, I think you can watch all 8. You can watch all the matchups whenever they pop up. So if you don't subscribe, if you haven't got VIX, that's the one streaming service that I don't have is VIX. And I've got them. I got all the others. Swear to God, I got all the others. And Fanatis helps me out with that. fntz.co/soccer down here. And what you can get is all the BNs, TSA, Noresta Tele for the fans, CDO, Liga 1 Max, Liga 1 Max Pro. You got all the action on the BNs with AFCON and stuff going on in South America, all the leagues. You've got Ligue 1, and that's where I keep track of Caleb Wiley, is through BN and their contract with Ligue 1. Caleb was training this week. If you were watching the social medias for Strasbourg, and so Caleb had the vest on, the monitoring vest, and so he was back after nursing a bit of a knee injury. Ropes had VIX during the Euro and the Copas. Smart move. So well done there for all of you guys. But if you want to add to your true degeneracy, if that is in fact a word, and if it's not, I just made it up, fntz.co/soccer down here. You can get Fanatis, and that gets you all those other streaming services that you can add to the ones that you currently have. Because I've got, so basic cable, which isn't basic, because I have the sports package and the Spanish-speaking package. So I get Nuestra Tele, CATV, let's see, what else? Obviously, Univision, Telemundo, 2 to NA, all that stuff. So that way I can watch Liga MX and keep track of all that stuff. So I have that package. I've got Paramount Plus, Prime, which doesn't broadcast anything. Super Hyper Mega Sports Cable Package gives me FS1 and 2, so I can get all the stuff that FS2 puts on, like Nations League and Canadian Premier and all that kind of stuff. Also, what else do we have? So we got Paramount Plus. Oh, Peacock. Jessica Charman on the call for USL Super League game tonight. I think it's Brooklyn and DC. I think that Jess is on the call for. She was calling a Mountain West match last night. And so now she's going to have Peacock tonight, and I think she's got Peacock tomorrow. So keep an eye out on Jess's social media at Jess Talks Footy IE, and you can find out what matches Jess is calling, whether it's college or USL Super League and what have you. I think we're going to try and have Marion Crowder on next week so she can talk about the show that she has with Anna Whitty discussing Super League. We'll have her on to talk about the SEC and Super League going forward. So there's plenty to discuss there. Gossip, rumor, and innuendo, what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it, plus the headlines before we get out of here on a rare non-MLS. So you have your penultimate week of the regular season and an international window before decision day. Yes, that is true. So it is a rare non-MLSian weekend, except for the 2 matches that are there. We'll talk about those coming up in a very abbreviated weekend whip around, patent pending, trademark coming sooner, hopefully, rather than later, coming up in just a little bit. But gossip, rumor, and innuendo, what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it, all of those things. And thanks for hanging out with us this morning. Big ups to Michael Parkhurst for joining before he got to his Friday golf game. And big ups to Bart for joining us before things truly do collide with all of his stuff. Galatasaray, no plans to make. So, so yesterday, swear to God, was it yesterday or 2 days ago? Galatasaray is planning on making Victor Osimhen's loan move permanent. Apparently not. They have no plans now, according to Team Talk, to make the loan move from Napoli permanent, but Chelsea remain interested. Napoli director Mauro Maluso has confirmed Osimhen is free to leave the club for the right price in January. Liverpool have identified Bayer Leverkusen's Jeremy Frimpong, Monaco's Vanderson, no relation to Vanderlei, and Fiorentina's Michael Coyote as potential targets should they lose Trent Alexander-Arnold. However, Liverpool are making progress in their contract negotiations with Alexander-Arnold. Jorginho concentrating on his Arsenal future, despite being linked with a move to Saudi Arabia. Both he and Kevin De Bruyne are being linked to Saudi Arabia, as is Mo Salah. What else is new? Manchester United weighing up whether to activate the buyback clause in Alvaro Fernandez's contract with Benfica. Thomas Tuchel, spoken of as the most likely successor to Eric Ten Hag, when Manchester United's football hierarchy met earlier this week. That's from our friends at The Independent. And Manchester City could move for Victor Gyökeres if Barcelona are able to lure Erling Haaland away from the Etihad. So you see how the pieces might be falling into place. Newcastle lead the race to sign Antoine Semenyo from Bournemouth amid competition from other Premier League rivals. Liverpool desperate to agree to a new contract with Virgil van Dijk amid growing speculation over his long-term future at the age of 33. The Reds are continuing to assess transfer targets to bolster Arne Slot's central defense, having made the position a priority for the summer, with Sevilla's Loic Bade and Sporting's Gonzalo Ignacio among the candidates. We talked with Nino yesterday about what Sporting has been able to build over time. Roster worth €430 million with the 24 individuals that are currently on the roster. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer rejected talks over taking the Denmark job because he's in negotiations with a major club over a head coach role. That needs to be just a little bit more nebulous. Dortmund triggered a buy clause in Jan Couto's loan agreement, with the defender set to leave Manchester City without having made a single first-team appearance. Wolves are considering a move for Aberdeen's Jimmy Thielen should they decide to sack Gary O'Neill. That's from the three-letter paper. Take the information at your own peril. West Ham have opened talks over a new deal with 18-year-old English keeper Finn Herrick. Torino could move for Napoli's Giovanni Simeone following the departure of following Duvan Zapata's knee injury, and Zapata also being 33 compared to Simeone being 29. Senegalese midfielder Cheku Kouyaté is one of a small number of free agents Leeds are considering signing. That comes from the Yorkshire Evening Post. And the Wolves news, tracking Jimmy Thielen, while David Moyes is also a potential replacement should Gary O'Neill fail to secure better results during the forthcoming more favorable run of fixtures in the Premier League. So let's take a peek at that run of fixtures for Gary O'Neill, who basically was given O'Neill's like, well, hey, I need this, and this. And Wolves were like, yeah, good luck on that. So that really didn't go over well. And so looking at the schedule, if I can find it without, no, I don't want to subscribe to an email. So club, TV, matches, men's first team. All right. So let's see what this favorable run of form is allegedly. So next up, favorable run of form could continue next Sunday against Manchester City at the Molineux. Doesn't sound favorable. After that, it's a Sunday match. And then on Saturday the 26th, they're at Brighton. That doesn't sound all that favorable. November starts Crystal Palace at home, Southampton at home, week off, Craven Cottage to take on Fulham, load more. Then Bournemouth after the United States Thanksgiving at home at Molineux. Then Everton at Goodison Park to start December. West Ham away December 7. Wolves hosting Ipswich on the 14th. Leicester at the King Power on the 21st before you get into festive fixtures. 3 matches in 8 days. At the King Power, at home to Manchester United, away to Spurs. And then you start 2025 with a home match at the Molineux against Nottingham Forest. So I see where you're coming from here, because they're short of Manchester City and at Brighton. November at home, Crystal Palace. Southampton at home, at Fulham, home to Bournemouth, at Everton. Yeah, I could see where November could be allegedly possibly more manageable. So that would be, I get that. So let's see. So news on Hearts, more news on Hearts. Scotland's Kenny McLean, one discussion with Norwich City's Johan Haftorp to persuade him to sign a new deal. A bookmaker has made Rangers one of the favorites to sign Jordan Henderson. Should he leave Ajax, where he's had limited game time, but the Ibrox club would struggle to match the Englishman's £85,000 per week salary. Las Palmas is a possible destination for Kieran Tierney as Arsenal look to let out the out-of-favor left-back leave on loan as he recovers from injury. And let's see, the Scottish Premiership sits 6th. I had to take my time. The Scottish Premiership sits 6th worldwide for the amount of expatriate players behind Cyprus, Turkey, Greece, the UAE, and Italy. 57.4% of minutes are on average played by footballers who grew up in a different association than the one they currently play in. That's from our friends at the National. Celtic midfielder Real Hatate, who Jarrett wants to have on this side of the Atlantic, has insisted he has no complaints about being dragged halfway around the world after being called up for Japan and not even making the bench for qualifiers against China and Bahrain last month. So, them's your transfer news. Oh, and by the way, check your fantasy team, check your fantasy team, check your fantasy team. Because in the SDH League, by the way, it is a double match week. So you could stack your roster from this week to get you ready for next week. So stack your roster appropriately. Take a look at your fantasy team. And thanks to everybody who joined the fantasy team, fantasy league this year, by the way. So very, very cool that everybody joined the fantasy league. If you didn't join this year, join next year. All that kind of stuff. A lot of college soccer. We'll get into that coming up in a sec. BN's got AFCON at noon and 3. Egypt, Mauritania, Tunisia, and the Comoros. FS2, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Germany at 2:45. BN and Espanol simulcasting AFCON. Amazon Prime, game of the week in the NWSL, Portland and Orlando at 10 o'clock. That reminds me that we need to catch up with Jen Hildreth to find out about Orlando and their run, because she was there when they won the Supporters Shield and continue to be unbeaten in the NWSL. If you did not read it, go to Defector. Defector has a rundown of the lawsuit of the 5 plaintiffs that are suing San Diego Wave and the NWSL. So go read that. That's required reading for the weekend because it's a bit of a long read. Fox Soccer Plus, simulcasting what's going on in Nations League. Paramount Plus has CONCACAF Nations League group play. 2 at 4, 1 at 5, 1 at 6, 1 at 7, 1 at 8, at 1 at 9. Guadeloupe, Martinique, St. Martin, Puerto Rico, Grenada, Curacao, Suriname, Costa Rica, Aruba, Haiti, St. Martin, St. Lucia, and Guyana and Guatemala, all on Paramount Plus. Peru and Uruguay is on pay-per-view at 9:30, and the Super League with Brooklyn, D.C., that is tonight on Peacock, and Jessica Charman will be part of that call there as well. On the college soccer front, let me go past Thursday because today is Friday. Starts, bright and early. San Diego, and I'm guessing that's San Diego State's on at 12:05. That'd be a 9:05 Eastern. That's breakfast with San Diego soccer. Then you've got flow with a lot of stuff in the Northeast. There's Big East there. You've got Metro Atlantic Athletic at 5. You've got ACC on at 6. More Big East at 7. You've got Division II Gulf South at 7. Jacksonville, Central Arkansas. A lot of action ACC Extra, 7 o'clock. You've got the American at 7 o'clock. South Carolina, Georgia State. That's Tony Annan territory. That's 7 o'clock on the Plus. West Virginia, Georgia Southern, as Bart mentioned, that's at 7 o'clock. South Florida, Florida Atlantic, Old Dominion, Kentucky. Army, Navy on ESPN Plus at 7 o'clock. North Carolina, Notre Dame. On ACC Extra, 5 matches on B1G Plus. Indiana, Penn State, Michigan State, Wisconsin, Rutgers, Northwestern at 7. Late. So B1G After Dark has UCLA, Ohio State, Washington, and Maryland. Handful of matches on the women's side. It is SoCon. It is ACC. NC State and Virginia's on the U at 6 o'clock. You've got Mountain West. You've got Grand Canyon, Southern Utah. You've got Army and Loyola, Maryland at 7. Bucknell and Navy at 7. You've got stuff in the Southland also at 8 o'clock tonight on ESPN Plus. Ivy League men, Harvard and Yale, 12:05 tomorrow afternoon to get you started with all that. Let's take a tour of the papers and let you know what's going on before we get out of here on a Friday. Once again, thanks to all of you guys for hanging out with us for yet another week. Remember, later today, we're going to catch up with our friends at Ozark United, Chris Martinovich. They have now transferred over from USL NWA to Ozark United. We're going to find out about that process and what the buzz has been like as they go forward. And let's see. Rivals are lining up damage claims over Premier League charges. For Manchester United, you have Nusar Mazraoui expected to be out a few weeks after undergoing a minor heart procedure, substituted at halftime of the draw with Aston Villa, subsequently pulled out of Morocco's squad, signed by United from Bayern for around £15 million this summer, successfully undergone a corrective procedure to address an irregularity. United described Mazraoui's condition as relatively common, expected him to make a full recovery, be available for selection again in the next couple of weeks. So very, very cool, and hoping for nothing but the best for Nasir Mazraoui. So, as I said, I'm trying to see if there's anything that we missed on that newspaper. The answer is no. Heading over to the Times. Have we talked about everything at the Times? In the sports section, let's see. We talked about Forest. The chaotic, tortured England outclassed by Greece. The Jonathan Norcroft headline. Bukayo Saka set to have a scan after limping out of the defeat, injury to his right hamstring. So keep an eye on Bukayo Saka and what might be the latest there involving him, and hopefully an injury that will not keep him out for very, very long when it comes to the tweak that he experienced in his hamstring in the matchup yesterday in the loss to Greece. We'll go into Europe. We'll go into Nations League coming up in just a little bit, and get you ready for matchups coming up in short order. Player ratings: the Saka and Foden flop. They flopped, I say, or at least the Independent says they flopped. We mentioned raccoons. This isn't as bad as raccoons. Harry Latham Coyle at the Independent. An 8th-tier English club is forced to call off a fixture due to international call-ups. Lansing were due to make the short trip to face Three Bridges in the Isthmian League Southeast Division. Based in West Sussex, they were supposed to make the short trip to face Three Bridges in the Southeast Division. Norrie Scott and Luke Robinson have both been called up to the Bermuda squad and will have to be 3,500 miles away facing Dominica in CONCACAF Nations League. To compound matters, Charlie Gibson and Sam Bull playing 6-a-side for England at the World Mini Football Federation U23 World Cup in Croatia. Lansing chairman Barry Sutton, quote, "It's ridiculous for a club at this level. To have one person called up was something we celebrated, but to have 4 off in the same week is unheard of." They sit 20th in the league, 4 points from their first 8 matches, club playing at the highest level in history after being founded in 1941. And so they have like multiple players either heading to do CONCACAF or something called World Mini Football. I swear to God, I've never heard of that. The World Mini Football Championships. Erling Haaland became Norway's all-time leading scorer in just 36 matches, by the way. And so you had all of that activity. We have to reset the clock on stupidity down here. Lazio and Atletico Madrid punished by UEFA after racist behavior from fans. They've been sanctioned. The governing body of European football said 2 sectors of Lazio's stadium, the Curva Nord, will be closed for the next Europa League home match scheduled against Porto on November 7 after the racist behavior of some fans in their 4-1 win against Nice. Lazio also fined €45,000 for the infringement. I just love the wording from the Independent. For the infringement, which also came with an additional partial closure of the stadium for an extra match. Said partial stadium closure is suspended during a probationary period of 1 year, according to UEFA. Atletico were fined €30,000 that came with a suspended ban of selling tickets to their away fans for a UEFA competition match. The probationary period is 1 year. Atletico fans showed, quote, racist/discriminatory behavior in the side's 4-0 loss at Benfica. Anderlecht have been banned from selling tickets to their away fans for their Europa League game at RFS in Latvia on November 7 after UEFA decided to enforce, quote, the suspended disciplinary measure imposed on 21 October 2022 for lighting fireworks, throwing of objects, acts of damage, and crowd disturbances, end quote. That's a way to phrase it. So, all right. So, checking once again news and seeing if I have missed anything one way or the other. Maresca admits he wanted Ben Chilwell to leave Chelsea as the defender returns. Casemiro is linked with a Turkey transfer. So, we'll keep an eye on that. And let's see. So, that is it for the Independent. I'm trying to figure out who we've missed. Oh, we missed the Guardian. We haven't had the Guardian yet as a part of the discussion. World Cup news from the Guardian from Paul McInnes, and that's not necessarily the best byline that you want to have if you got the world chasing after you. Headline: FIFA is ignoring the human rights report into Saudi Arabia's 2034 World Cup bid. Sidebar: color me shocked. Lawyers say FIFA is, quote, dealing with the devil with the Saudi bid. They have had no response from FIFA after 5 months. McGuinness writes, a group of leading legal figures say FIFA has ignored their report into human rights concerns over the 2034 World Cup, warning that the governing body is dealing with the devil and planning to take the tournament to Saudi Arabia. A decision on the Saudi bid to host the World Cup is to be made in December, and apparently it is a conjoined decision with other World Cups. You're voting on more than one. The one that is, I think, the triple host in 2030 and the 2034, they're going to be voted on as one. So you can't, and they're voted on as a group. So if you turn down one bid, you're turning down both bids. Appears to be a foregone conclusion given there are no other bidders. The lawyers, Professor Mark Peath, Stefan Varenberg, and Rodney Dixon, KC, submitted a report to FIFA in May pointing out areas in which the Saudi state breached the human rights policies of world football's governing body. Dixon, who represents the widow of Saudi dissident Jamal Khashoggi, Hatis Cengiz, said FIFA has failed to respond to the report. Peath was formerly the chair of FIFA's Independent Governance Committee, which was introduced after the exposure of widespread corruption in the organization after the successful Russian and Qatari bids to host the World Cup. The committee delivered governance changes that helped President Gianni Infantino in 2020 to declare, quote, the new FIFA, a credible, accountable, modern, professional, and transparent organization. End quote. Peath said that going to Saudi Arabia was a big risk for FIFA. The authors of the report say they're taking a staged approach to engagement with FIFA and are not ruling out legal action should FIFA fail to respond. Article 7 of the governing body's human rights policy says, quote, FIFA will constructively engage with the relevant authorities and other stakeholders and make every effort to uphold its international human rights responsibilities. Dixon says we are not alone in calling for an honest and proper review. Report focuses on Saudi Arabia must immediately release all political prisoners and those who are arbitrarily detained. Second, the judiciary must be appointed independently by a body not connected to the executive and must be permitted to carry out its work without external influence. Third, employment law must be changed to allow migrant workers to leave jobs or the country without having to apply for government permission. And finally, Saudi Arabia must improve women's rights by criminalizing marital rape, ensuring adequate protection from domestic violence, and allowing women to be the legal guardian for their child if it is in the child's best interest. A FIFA spokesperson said it was implementing thorough bidding processes for the 2030 and 34 World Cups. All relevant reports, including the independent human rights context assessments and the human rights strategies of all bidders for the 2030 and 34 editions, are available on our website. The bid evaluation reports for the 30 and 34 FIFA World Cup will be published ahead of the extraordinary FIFA Congress on 11 December. This is sadly me holding my breath. So you've got that update with FIFA, and I'm trying to see if there's anything else. We talked about Viana, and Italy blew the lead over Belgium. Pellegrini saw red. And so, I was going to go over Nations League and what else to anticipate today. Europe nation, UEFA Nations League. Okay, here we go. Before we get out of here, like I said, today starts at noon. Estonia and Azerbaijan, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Germany. That's at 245. Germany's a minus 385. Netherlands a minus 141 at Hungary. League B, Czech Republic favored. Wales favored at Iceland at a plus 147. Turkey a big favorite at home hosting Montenegro. Ukraine a plus 117 hosting Sabalobjanidze's Georgian club at a plus 257. You also have Slovakia, Sweden at 245. Slovakia is a plus 177. Sweden is a road favorite at a plus 161. You've got more activity on Saturday, more activity on Sunday, more activity on Monday, and more activity in Europe on Tuesday. So it's going to be a full weekend of European football carrying you through to Tuesday. Remember the two matches in Major League Soccer this weekend, they're the make goods to get everybody to 33 matches and get everybody ready for decision day. Tomorrow at 7:30, so 7:40 start. Crew and Revs. Crew are a minus 270. The Revs are a plus 602. And then 7:30 Sunday night from Vancouver. Vancouver hosting LAFC in a match that both teams need. LAFC is a plus 138 on the road at BC Place. Vancouver is a plus 171, and that'll get everybody to 33 matches and get you ready for deadline day next Saturday. Remember, all Eastern Conference games next Saturday, 6:10 kick. I'm imagining 6:10 kick. And all Western Conference games are 9:10 kicks. So we'll keep an eye on all of that stuff going forward. So very, very busy week. If you have nothing going on and can catch a match, whether it's in college, go see something that you haven't been able to see yet. We got matches in USL Championship this weekend. The preview for both Championship, League One, and MLS Next Pro. Now that we pick a partner, that'll be up a little later today as well. Very, very busy day on this weekend. So you had the activity in the midweek. North Carolina shut out Tulsa. El Paso, San Antonio drew it 2. Phoenix beat New Mexico United at the Lab. Orange County over Colorado Springs. Sacramento drew Monterey Bay. So tomorrow, Detroit City hosting Indy 11 at Keyworth at 4. Pittsburgh hosting Charleston. Keep an eye on that one. Hartford hosting North Carolina. Lou City hosting Tampa Bay, provided the Rowdies have been able to get out safely. And Lou City, I believe, is raising up to $10,000 initially to help out with Milton relief. So very, very cool stuff from Lou City. Colorado Springs hosting San Antonio. Memphis 901 and our friend Stephen Glass hosting Sacramento, who's been kind of hiccuping of late. 1OK has Tulsa and New Mexico United, and Oakland Roots hosting Phoenix Rising. Sunday afternoon at Bern, Rhode Island FC hosting Loudoun, and at Protective at 6, Birmingham is hosting Vegas Lights. In USL League One this weekend, if you have the chance, Tormenta is in Richmond. That's going to be a big one at the bottom of the playoff race, because that one's at Tormenta tonight at 7:30. So if you are anywhere close to Bullitt County and can go catch a big matchup that is very impactful toward the bottom of the playoff standings, go check it out, 7:30. Everything else is on Saturday. It is Union Omaha hosting Lexington, 5 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. 6 o'clock at Breeze Stevens, Chattanooga at Forward Madison. 7 o'clock in Charlotte, Hailstorm at Independence. 9 o'clock at One Spokane, Velocity hosting Greenville Triumph. Ronaldinho now a part of the ownership group for Greenville Triumph, by the way. And then Tuesday, One Knox is hosting Central Valley Fuego. If you can, read the article in The Athletic about what's going on at Central Valley. We got into that a little bit yesterday, but that's still required reading. And then everything picks back up for Saturday, October the 19th. And the last matches of the regular season on the 26th of October. So, and then MLS Next Pro, they don't have their play-in round. They don't have their round of 8 until next weekend. So next Sunday, everybody plays and they start their playoff structure and pick your opponent. So that's another week of SDH. Thanks to Bart for dropping by. Thanks to Michael Parkhurst for dropping by. Yes, Ropes, the hassle of fantasy on decision day is not knowing who teams are going to start if they don't have anything to push for. So literally you've got to monitor it until right up to the hour before kick and bury things appropriately. Derek, thanks for dropping by. Thanks to you. Thanks to Ropes. Thanks to Abby. Thanks to Alex. Thanks to Hutch. And let's see. Thanks to Ewan for dropping by. Thanks to Bam before Bam went to bed. Morning 4Card. Morning Alex. Morning Harry. And that's Friday. So we all know what that means. With it being Friday, it's time to take the banners down and get you ready for the weekend. Once again, thanks for dropping by for another week of SDH. Enjoy the games this weekend. We'll be back at it again 9:05 on Monday morning to talk about anything and everything that has gone on in the world of soccer. So for everybody here at SDH, I'm just John. Thanks for dropping by. Enjoy your version of heading out the door. Enjoy your coffee. Enjoy your lunch. We'll catch up with you soon. So once again, play it safe, everybody. We will see you next week.
The war was on. The keys on the typewriter had sharp points that kept sticking into our fingers. The dictating equipment started asking us questions, and our beepers sent electric shocks just through our body like a cattle prod. Out in the warehouse, the trucks kept banging into the docks, not even thinking about stopping. Oh, our frail bodies were strapped to the chairs, and our chairs were chained to the desks. Our pleas for justice were ignored, and the end seemed near. But we busted our slave drivers' little bitty balls. We've charged out of their brick fortress. The streets are ours. Be gone.